What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel, The Historian Translates. Today I'm going to be doing a breakdown of the European states' population by ethnically European and non-European percentages, showing you the European states that have the highest levels of non-Europeans living within them, and then the European states with the most ethnic Europeans still residing within them. And this is going to be groundbreaking for many of y'all because if you haven't spent much time in Europe, it may be shocking, but I have lived 5 years in Italy and Germany combined, and it was shocking to me. So let's begin. I pulled the statistics straight from the European Union's website, so all of this is 100% up to date as of 2024. On the left side here, we have the most ethnically European population by percentage. So if you look at Bulgaria, which is number one, they are 98% European. Same for Poland. Poland is 98% European. And like what this means is that only 1.9% of the population came from outside of Europe. So Turkey, uh, the Middle East, Africa, even technically the United States or Canada if you were to immigrate, which there's no United States immigrants in Poland. If they are, they're not there permanently. Anyway, if you see the top five, you got Slovakia, Croatia, and Iceland. They all have really high percentages of ethnically Europeans, and that's because these countries fight back against EU policies and they control their own borders, especially Poland. Poland is very strict with their border, but Iceland is very difficult to migrate to. Now, Lithuania, Hungary are also really high on here. I should have made them green as well. 96%, 94%. Additionally, Lithuania, the 4% may be skewed slightly because some studies don't consider Russian to be European. I do, though, because they are Slavic people. It's just like the people genetically that live in Poland and Hungary. They are European. Now, going forward, going down here, you start getting into the low 90s. You have Finland, Norway, Czech Republic, Slovenia, Ireland. And Ireland, most of these are in Dublin. Ireland is a very small country. There is only 5.2 million people in Ireland. You guys should check out my video on Ireland. I just did it about their immigration problem. They have taken in like 140,000 people in the last couple of years in a row. When you only have 5 million people and you take in 100,000 immigrants, it's a big deal. If you keep going down, you see Italy, Denmark, Latvia. I'm going to skip along into this. We'll start at the Netherlands and the UK. Now, if you visit the Netherlands, you're likely going to go to Amsterdam, and you will be hard pressed to find a group of Dutch people walking together. Amsterdam is so globalized, such a quote unquote multicultural center that you will be hard pressed to find many Dutch people, and everyone speaks English. You go to the United Kingdom, I actually doubt the UK's numbers here. I don't think the UK reports this properly because if you go to London and you look at the statistics just for London, over 50%, I think it is 66% actually, of the population that resides in London is non-white, non-European now. 66%. That means that the white people are the minority in their capital city. Now, I'm going to skip over, no offense to the Balkans, but not many people are going to want to migrate to the Balkans. So, Austria is the first red one. We got just a slightly lower percentage than the UK. And this is in Austria is a pretty decent sized country and a lot of countryside, a lot of beautiful places that are still very rich in Austrian culture. But Vienna has a very high immigration percentage. So Let's skip along. Malta is the smallest nation in Europe, so skip along to Switzerland. So Switzerland's unique because it's actually not in the European Union, and that's what's cool about it. And they're very monetarily independent, so I imagine they probably have a pathway to citizenship based on wealth. And this is probably where you get a lot of like Saudi billionaires or millionaires or international Chinese businessmen and stuff that live there. So that's the thing about this study is this includes non-ethnically European would include people from China, Japan, Korea, all people of an Asian background. Russians are included in the European percentage. Um, and technically, ethnically European should include people from the United States. If you're obviously a European American, we should make that a word, a European American. But anyway, yeah, they should include that and those from Canada and Australia and other places as well, South Africa. But I'm not certain that they do. And it, honestly, there's such minuscule migration from the United States because these countries don't take many United States or Canadian immigrants into their countries. They want the third world country people instead. So I'm going to go on to the next one and break it down by demographics. So this is the least European countries in Europe. And I like the way that this is laid out here. So Germany is number one. Only 71% of German citizens are German. That means nearly 30% are, not European. But the thing is, specifically with Germany, the German government does not count Turkish citizens as not European. They consider Turkey a part of Europe because they have a special relationship with Germany. They have the Arbeiter, what is it, the Gastarbeiter program, where it means guest worker, where they could take Turkish citizens in post World War II time period, and they worked in Germany, but many of them, because there was no men left, many of them married German women and had children and stayed forever. So they are considered a part of this native-born population now. So the number could be lower. It could be 60% of Germans, and all German cities. It's very apparent. Next is France. So France has a really high African migration, um, like a large percentage of African migrants for some reason. Most of the other European countries have Middle Eastern migrants from countries like Syria. That's where Germany took in all their big numbers. And this has been a part of France for a long time. France has been multicultural like this for a while. But Sweden is the new one. So Sweden has in Malmo and Stockholm in the last 5 years, their crime statistics have skyrocketed and their immigration policies have gotten out of control. You have asylum seekers that are pretty much all able bodied young men migrating to Sweden. They don't speak Swedish, they don't respect Swedish culture. Swedish is a hard language to learn, by the way, but they come and instead of assimilating, they've caused a lot of trouble, and you see a stark rise in crime. And the Swedish people are very unhappy about it, and they've actually Sweden and Ireland are the only countries that have begun attempting to deport some of these people. So Italy, Spain, the UK, you know, going forward. I just wanted to show this from Berlin. If you think that you're going to get authentic German culture in Berlin, you will not. You will find degeneracy, debauchery, multiculturalism, globalism. You'll be hard pressed to find a German soul in Berlin. This is a rally from London. As I said, over 60% of population in London is non-European, non-white, non-English, not native. This is Paris. Stop Islamophobia. This is nothing new for Paris or France, like I said. This is Germany again. I think this one might be in Munich. I'm not certain. Yeah, you see, it's not just Middle Eastern or African. There are several Indian people here as well. I think this might be like an entirely Indian rally. But this is what the Swedish prime, the one of their ministers in the European Parliament said. He said Sweden has taken more young male migrants than any other country in Europe, and there has been a dramatic rise in sexual crime in Sweden, so much so that Malmo is now the rape capital of Europe. That means Malmo has the highest rape percentage per capita in all of Europe, and Sweden 5 years ago was considered the top five safest country in the world, especially for women. If you know anything about Sweden, mothers would leave their children parked in their strollers outside to take naps while they went into a restaurant because the society was so safe. It was no longer like that because they have sold their country out. This is a picture of Poland. Remember, Poland is 98% ethnically European. You'll notice it's much cleaner. There's not graffiti, there's not trash on the ground, and of course, everyone is European. And a big difference I wanted you all to see, they're holding a statue, I'm sorry, they're holding a statue of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You didn't see that in any other places. All right, here was the list of the top 15 highest non European populations. Like I said, Germany's statistic is 100% wrong. 100% because they're not counting any of the Turkish migrants, and there's a lot of illegal immigration in Germany. Sweden's is probably the most accurate, honestly, and this is all concentrated in the cities in Malmo and Stockholm because obviously they don't want to move way up north where it's really cold. I've been to almost every single country in Europe. I've never been to Spain. But Spain is right down there near the Horn of Africa, so I know that from some studies I've done that a lot of North African immigrants will try to take boats and make it to Spain or Italy, so that they can, become citizens there. Like I said, Switzerland's a special case because they are really difficult to immigrate to if you don't have a lot of money. I imagine a lot of these in Switzerland are probably Asian or some type of like oil tycoon from the Middle East, Iran, Saudi Arabia, something along those lines. You may even see like some United States or Canadian billionaires or millionaires move to Switzerland. Now, I'm not going to harp on these because they're really small nations. And like I said, in Austria, it is all concentrated in Vienna. Now, I would bet my life on that the UK and the Netherlands statistics are off. I don't believe that those statistics are accurate because, like I said, 66% of London is now not English, and you will not find a Dutch person in Amsterdam, or you'll be hard pressed to. Now, here I wanted to go into the total crime rates. These are the top 10 European countries for different types of crime. You have violent crime, homicide, and at the bottom was sex crimes. So it got cut off there. But from left to right, you have Sweden, France, and Belgium, and the UK are all really high up there, tied for first place. It looks like in total crime. Belgium wasn't on our top 10 list of highest immigration, but Sweden, France, the UK, Germany, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Austria, Finland and Denmark were close there, so they were all on there. And I'm not saying correlation is causation. This is up for interpretation, but these are the facts. We look at violent crime, it's Sweden and France. It looks like the UK is right there with them. Belgium again, Germany, the Netherlands, Luxembourg. It's interesting that Luxembourg is on here. I assume because it's such a small country, everyone's kind of jammed together, so it might skew the statistics a bit. But that's honestly a case study in itself that might be interesting to look into. And then you have the sex crimes at the bottom. You got Sweden, France there, and they're leading the way, and then all the rest are, a little behind. And this is the top 10 European countries with the highest Muslim populations. You have France. Says France is number one. That's absolute BS. I know it's Germany. It has to be Germany. I've lived in Germany. there's more Muslims in Germany than there are in the Middle East. That's a joke. But I assume that, again, it's not counting the Turkish people because a lot of Turkish Muslims are secular. They're not the same branch of, you know, mm, the same branch of Islam that your typical like Syrian or someone would be, or someone from Iraq or Afghanistan or even Iran or Saudi Arabia. So they'll often I have a Turkish friend actually, and he told me that other Muslims will say that Turkish people aren't real Muslims, which is ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, so this German statistic, again, I don't trust the German thing, the German why they're number one, hands down. But anyway, you'll see the same actors: Belgium, Sweden, Netherlands, UK, Germany, France, Austria up there. There's no Luxembourg on this one. It's interesting. Now oh shoot, here is a three-way graph I created, which shows violent crime rank, foreign born rank, and then the Muslim population rank in all the countries in Europe. I just wanted to see if there was a correlation. You'll see Sweden is number one in violent crime. They're number three in foreign born ranks. They're number five in the Muslim population rank. Here you have France at number eight. Here, two, here, but you notice they're all within the top 10. Now, the really bad ones over here, uh, I'm sorry, not really bad, but the more balanced ones over here are like Norway down there with 11, 10, and 10. That's really not too bad. But yeah, I just found it was interesting how many of them are in the top three in all the same categories. And it's not the religion of Islam, it's the type of asylum seekers that these nations let in without vetting them. You can look at the terrorist attacks that have happened in Germany and the violent attacks that have happened in Sweden. It's clear that these people came to the country with a nefarious agenda. Now here I just took the statistics and I made a map. The red are the highest, orange is the next highest, yellow is slightly high, and then very low. So we'll start from very low. You got Iceland, Poland, Slovakia, Croatia, and Bulgaria leading the way with preserving European culture. They're very difficult to migrate to, as I said before. Don't know anybody that would migrate to Bulgaria, but I left some of these countries off. You'll see. I didn't include Russia at all because even though they're a part of a European continent, they are not part of the EU, and their statistics are very difficult to find. Ukrainian statistics were incredibly difficult to find because they are in wartime right now. Belarus, again, they're lumped in with Russia. They're not in the EU. I left off Romania, even though they're in the EU, um, because I have I did this essentially for the places people frequently think of when they think of Europe. And I did this for people that may be thinking of visiting or moving to Europe. And I don't know many people that want to move to Romania. I've heard the crime rate is very high. I actually got talked out of visiting um, Romania in the past because of the pickpockets and such. So I left off Romania. I'm sorry if you're Romanian. I do consider you European, but I left you off the study. Same for a few of these in the Balkans, uh, Kosovo, especially in Serbia. They're not a part of the EU. Neither's Bosnia. Albania is, but I think I think it's the majority Muslim population in Albania, and it has a strange history. So I don't consider it part of what we would consider Europe. Most people don't think of Albania when they think of Europe or visiting Europe. But here we are. Uh, the next highest, countries that isn't that high are the yellow, and then country that's becoming very, very high quickly are the UK, the Netherlands, and Greece. Strangely enough, the Greece one could be a lot of popular from Africa because the Africa's right here, and from Turkey, or they could come right over from Syria because it's really close down there. But I think it's interesting that like if you look at the highest, all those countries touch. So it's kind of clear that they're able to how they're able to get because it's a landmass that's really easy to get to. I mean, obviously, most of Europe touches, not besides like the UK and parts of like Cyprus and stuff. But if you look down here, you got Morocco and Algeria right there. If you can get into Spain, then you can take the railway system through France into Switzerland or into Germany. And from Germany, you can actually go up into Denmark and Copenhagen. And there's a train that goes from Copenhagen right over to Malmo. And Malmo is the rape center of Europe now. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Uh, Please like and subscribe. Let me know if you want to see a specific kind of content. I will get back to doing more history stuff in the future, I promise. But I just wanted to focus and show you guys some of the research that I've been doing. And yeah, thank you guys.